Assistant Liaison Officer Vera Kessler's first impression of Omega Station 7 was that it looked like the most tedious cosmic DMV in existence. Pristine white corridors, featureless except for the occasional incomprehensible symbol in the curving Hygameny script, stretched in every direction. The air smelled faintly of sanitizer, with a metallic edge that made her nose itch. "Human specimen, please follow," chirped the orientation drone, a hovering silver disk with too many appendages. "We process your temporary accommodations now." Vera sighed. 22 days in cryosleep, 3 weeks of hyperspace travel, and now this glorified office complex was her home for the foreseeable future. Humanity's newest diplomatic initiative in the greater galactic community. The first human on Omega 7. "I have a name," she reminded the drone, jogging to keep up with its efficient pace. Assistant Liaison Officer Vera Kessler, Earth Diplomatic Corps. The drone paused briefly, appendages whirring as it accessed something. Designation noted. Classification, Prey status pending. Temporary categorization, Prey unclassified. Proceed to Prey holding section. Vera stopped walking. "Wait, what do you mean, Prey?" The drone bobbed impatiently. "Prey unclassified. Standard procedure. All new species undergo Hygameny predator-prey observation and classification. Has been this way for 12,347 standard cycles. Very efficient." "But I'm a diplomat," Vera protested. "My credentials?" "Credentials irrelevant to biological classification. Please proceed." Vera rubbed her temples. The mission briefing had mentioned the Hygamany's obsession with taxonomic categories. But this was ridiculous. She'd spent 3 years training for this position, mastering 17 dialects of interspecies communication, studying xenocultural sensitivities, even undergoing genetic optimization for multi-atmosphere adaptation. And now she was being processed like a specimen. "How long does classification usually take?" she asked, reluctantly following the drone again. "Varies by species response. Some immediate. Others require multiple demonstrations of dominant submission reactions. Follow." The drone led her through a security checkpoint where several tall, mantis-like beings with iridescent exoskeletons scanned her thoroughly. The scanners hummed and beeped, and one of the mantis beings made a clicking sound. "No natural weapons," it observed, compound eyes gleaming. "Prey typical." "I'm a diplomatic representative," Vera repeated, dignity straining. "Many prey species have diplomats," the being responded, utterly unimpressed. "Proceed." The corridor beyond the checkpoint widened into what appeared to be a residential area, though residential was a generous term. Small compartments lined both sides, some with transparent barriers, others with force fields or physical doors. Inside, Vera could see creatures of various shapes and sizes, some vaguely humanoid, others utterly alien. "Other prey species," the drone explained, noting her gaze. "Deltarians, Proximans, Zobulan mites, all undergoing classification or already classified." They stopped at an empty compartment. It contained a sleeping platform, a small nutrition station, and what appeared to be sanitation facilities. "Your temporary accommodation," the drone announced. "Remain here until called for classification procedures. Administrator Zexi will process your case." The drone departed, leaving Vera staring at her new quarters. A force field hummed into place across the entrance. "Great," she muttered. "Earth's newest diplomatic initiative, and I'm in alien jail." She set down her small pack of personal items, all she'd been allowed to bring, and took inventory of her surroundings. The compartment was clean, but sterile, with nothing that could be repurposed as a weapon. Not that she was planning an escape, but old habits from security training died hard. A small terminal in the wall flickered to life, displaying scrolling text in multiple languages. Eventually, it cycled to Earth Standard English. "Welcome to Omega Station 7, Primary Classification and Regulatory Center for Hygameny Diplomatic Relations. Your species, human, is currently designated as prey unclassified. Tomorrow, interspecies harmony demonstration in arena. Mandatory attendance for all unclassified species. Remember, proper classification ensures proper treatment. Vera frowned at the terminal. Arena? That sounded ominous. She'd need to be careful. Earth had spent decades building enough credibility to earn this diplomatic posting. Whatever classification process they had planned, she needed to navigate it without incident. In the compartment next to hers, a gelatinous being with multiple eyes, floating in its translucent body, pulsed gently against the barrier separating them. It extended a pseudopod toward her in what might have been a greeting. "Hello," Vera said, nodding to the creature. "I'm Vera, human." The creature's pseudopod formed rudimentary shapes that somehow conveyed meaning. Blixup, Proximans, Prey Class 3. "What does that mean, Prey Class 3? The creature's body darkened slightly. "Edible, non-toxic, no defense mechanisms, minimal rights." Vera felt her stomach turn. "They eat you?" "Not usually," Blixup's shape suggested. "Demonstration only, symbolic consumption. Real consumption, wasteful of diplomatic resources." That was marginally better than what she'd imagined, but still horrific. "And what happens in the arena tomorrow?" The Proximan's body rippled in what Vera interpreted as resignation. "Dominance demonstration, predator-prey relationship establishment, necessary for classification." "Who are the predators?" "Many kinds. Zephrin's highest, Krillion's second, Vorthan's third." Blixup's pseudopod formed shapes suggesting relative sizes and apparent threat levels. Vera was about to ask more questions when a shrill tone sounded throughout the facility. Blixup's body contracted. "Feeding time," the alien explained. "Limited nutrition for prey class. You should eat. Tomorrow difficult." As if on cue, a panel opened in the wall of Vera's compartment, revealing a tray with a gray protein cube, a cup of clear liquid, and something that resembled blue celery. "Bon appétit," Vera muttered, picking up the tray. As she forced down the bland nutrition, she observed her fellow prey species, their interactions, their hierarchies, their apparent resignation to their status. This wasn't what she'd expected from her diplomatic assignment, but it was certainly educational. And tomorrow, apparently, would be even more so. Morning arrived with another shrill tone, and the force field across her compartment disappearing. The same drone from yesterday hovered outside. "Human specimen. Prepare for Arena 7 orientation. First-class Predator delegation arriving today. Your species will participate in first domination demonstration." Vera had barely slept, spending most of the night reviewing everything she knew about the hegemony and their predator-prey obsession. It wasn't much. Earth's briefings had been woefully inadequate, but she'd pieced together bits of information from conversations with her neighboring prey species. "I'd like to speak with Administrator Zexi before any demonstrations," she said firmly, straightening her diplomatic uniform. It was rumpled from sleep, but still represented Earth's authority. The drone's appendage's word. "Administrator unavailable for prey unclassified petitions. After classification, communication protocols will be established according to your species status." "This is ridiculous," Vera snapped. "I'm a diplomatic representative of Earth. We have agreements with the Galactic Council that—" "Galactic Council authority not recognized in hegemony classification procedures." The drone interrupted. "Please proceed to preparation area." Vera considered refusing, but noticed the Mantis guards watching closely. Creating an incident wouldn't help Earth's position. She needed to understand the system before she could challenge it. "Fine," she said, following the drone. The preparation area resembled a medical facility. Various prey species were being processed by technicians, some having samples taken, others being fitted with monitoring devices. Vera was directed to a station where a tall, slender being, with 4 arms and a face like a stylized mask, awaited. Human specimen, the being said, voice melodious despite the clinical tone. I am Preparator Jixley. I will ready you for the demonstration. What exactly happens in these demonstrations? Vera asked, as the being attached small sensors to her temples and wrists. Simple procedure, Jixley explained, working efficiently. First-class predator species will demonstrate dominance. Prey species demonstrates appropriate submission response. Classification board evaluates interaction. Very standard. And if I don't submit? Jixley's movements paused briefly. Non-submission is uncommon. Results in extended classification period. Sometimes increased dominance demonstration intensity. Not recommended. Has any species ever been classified as something other than prey? Of course. Jixley seemed almost offended. Many predator classifications exist. 7 primary categories, 23 subcategories. Hegemony system, very comprehensive, developed over thousands of cycles. And how does a species get classified as a predator instead of prey? Jixley's mask-like face was unreadable. Predators evident by nature, natural weapons, aggressive tendencies, consumption capabilities, dominance behaviors. Humans lack all these. Preliminary scans clear on this point. Vera thought of Earth's history, of apex predators, of hunters, of humanity's relentless pursuit of dominance over their environment. But she said nothing. Let them underestimate humans. It wouldn't be the first time. Preparation complete, Jixley announced. Proceed to holding area adjacent to Arena 7. Demonstration begins when first-class predator delegation arrives. The holding area was filled with nervous prey species. Some huddled together for comfort. Others performed what appeared to be calming rituals. Vera recognized Blixup, who pulsed a greeting. What happens after classification? Vera asked the Proximan. Depends on class assigned. Blixup's pseudopod shapes suggested lower prey classes restricted to prey sectors. Higher prey classes gain limited movement privileges. Some specialized prey gain work assignments. How long have you been here? 3 cycles. My species slow to demonstrate proper submission responses. Still under observation. Vera frowned. 3 years? That's... An announcement interrupted. The melodious hegemony language followed by translations in various forms. Attention all species. First-class predator delegation approaching Omega Station 7. All prey classified and prey unclassified species prepare for formal observation. Arena 7 demonstrations commence in 1 standard hour. The holding area hummed with increased anxiety. Vera observed as prey species began various preparation rituals, some prostrating themselves, others displaying vulnerable areas, a few applying substances that Vera guessed might mask their natural sense. A new drone appeared, larger and more ornate than the orientation models. I am Administrator Drone Zuki, representative of Administrator Zexi, it announced. Today's demonstrations will establish classification for several species, including the newly arrived humans. The drone's optical sensors focused on Vera. Human specimen will participate in first demonstration as scheduled. This is an honor, as first-class predator hunter Vexi has personally requested to evaluate your species. The other prey species turned to stare at Vera with what she could only interpret as pity. Lucky me, she muttered. Preparation time concludes in 55 minutes. Drone Zuki continued. Review submission protocols. Remember, proper submission ensures proper classification and treatment. As the drone departed, Blixup's pseudopod reached toward Vera. First demonstration problematic. First-class predators. Enthusiastic with new species. What exactly will this hunter Vexi do? Vera asked. Dominance display. Physical contact. Blixup's body darkened. Tasting sometimes occurs. Tasting. Vera felt her pulse quicken. They're going to bite me? Ceremonial only, Blixup assured her. Rarely fatal. Rarely? That's not reassuring. Submit quickly, advised a spindly creature nearby. Less pain that way. Vera took a deep breath. This was getting out of hand, but she needed to stay calm and think strategically. Her training hadn't prepared her for being treated as prey, but it had prepared her for high-pressure diplomatic situations. This was simply a more physical negotiation than expected. She spent the remaining time observing the other prey species, studying their submission behaviors, and gathering any information she could. When the final call came, she was as ready as she could be, without knowing exactly what awaited her. Arena 7 was aptly named, a vast circular chamber with 7 tiers of seating surrounding a central platform. The upper tiers were filled with various predator species, distinguished by their elaborate attire and the deference shown to them by the facility staff. The lower tiers contained what Vera assumed were mid-level classifications, neither clearly predator nor prey. The prey species, including Vera, were led to a holding area below the central platform. From there, they would apparently be called up individually for their demonstrations. A resonant tone sounded, and the arena fell silent. A voice announced something in the musical hegemony language, followed by translations. Esteemed predators and classified species, welcome to the Interspecies Harmony demonstration. Today, we welcome the distinguished first-class predator delegation and present several unclassified species for observation and classification. Vera watched through a viewing panel as a procession of imposing beings entered the arena's upper level. They moved with confident grace, their bodies adorned with what appeared to be ceremonial armor, or perhaps status indicators. The audience rippled with what Vera interpreted as respectful acknowledgement. Our first demonstration today features a new species to Omega Station 7. Classification: Human, Planet of Origin, Earth, Milky Way Galaxy. Preliminary scan indicates prey characteristics. Hunter Vexi will conduct the dominance assessment. A handler approached Vera. Platform rising in 30 seconds. Remember submission protocols. No one actually told me any protocols, Vera pointed out. The handler blinked all 4 of its eyes. Instinctual response expected. Natural prey know how to submit. Before Vera could protest further, the floor beneath her began to rise. She found herself ascending to the central platform, exposed to the scrutiny of hundreds of alien observers. The platform locked into place with a soft click. Vera stood alone in the center of Arena 7, acutely aware of every eye, optical sensor, and sensory organ focused on her. The diplomatic uniform she'd insisted on wearing suddenly felt inadequate protection. Across the platform, another section rose. On it stood one of the most intimidating beings Vera had ever seen. Nearly 8 feet tall, with a sleek, powerful body covered in short, iridescent scales or feathers. Its face combined avian and reptilian features. A sharp, beak-like mouth, slitted vertical pupils in amber eyes, and a crest of stiff, colorful spines that rose as it surveyed her. Hunter Vexi, announced the voice. First-class predator, Zephyrin Elite, conducting human assessment. The predator moved with liquid grace, circling Vera slowly. She turned to keep facing it, refusing to expose her back. This seemed to intrigue the hunter, who tilted its head in what might have been amusement. Interesting. Hunter Vexi's voice was surprisingly melodious, though with a rasping undertone. The human maintains eye contact. Unusual for new prey. The observers murmured, and Vera caught snippets of commentary from various tiers. Poor posture for effective defense. No natural weapons visible. Yet it displays predator-typical vigilance. Hunter Vexi completed a full circle and stopped directly in front of Vera, towering over her. Human, do you understand the purpose of this demonstration? I understand you believe this is necessary for classification, Vera replied evenly. Though as a diplomatic representative, I protest the procedure. More murmurs, these sounding surprised. Protests are irrelevant to biological reality, Vexi said, the crest of spines rising higher. Your species' response to dominance will determine your classification. Prepare yourself. Without further warning, Vexi moved, faster than Vera would have believed possible. The predator was suddenly beside her, one clawed hand gripping her shoulder, the beak-like mouth opening to reveal rows of serrated teeth. This was it, the tasting Blixup had warned about. Vera had seconds to decide her response. Submit, as everyone had advised, or... The teeth clamped down on her shoulder. Not at full force, she realized, but firmly enough to break the skin. A demonstration bite designed to trigger submission responses. The arena held its collective breath, hundreds of alien observers waiting to see the human submission response. Vera didn't flinch, didn't cry out. The pain was sharp but manageable. She'd experienced worse in survival training. Instead, she turned her head slowly to look at the bite, then at Hunter Vexi's amber eyes, which widened slightly in apparent surprise. Interesting technique, Vera said conversationally, as if discussing a chess move. Though inefficient on humans, you've targeted the trapezius muscle, tough, fibrous tissue with relatively few nerve endings. A predator specializing in mammalian prey would know that the brachial nerve bundle or carotid artery would be more effective targets. The arena was utterly silent. Hunter Vexi's grip on her shoulder tightened, confusion evident in its posture. Your bite pressure is approximately 67 pounds per square inch, Vera continued, her voice steady despite the pain. Respectable. But for context, an earth crocodile exerts over 3,000. Our wolves, about 1,500. Even our extinct Tyrannosaurus rex, a relatively inefficient biter for its size, managed 8,000. Whispers erupted among the observers. Hunter Vexi released her shoulder and stepped back, crest fully extended in what Vera interpreted as agitation or perhaps threat display. You speak of Earth predators. With admiration, Vexi said, voice lower now. Yet you yourself possess no natural weapons. True, Vera acknowledged, which is why we invented them instead. She reached slowly into her uniform pocket, a move that caused several security drones to hover closer, and withdrew something that made Hunter Vexi's crest flatten in confusion. A simple coil of thin, lightweight cord. Standard emergency equipment in her diplomatic kit. On Earth, Vera explained, uncoiling the cord with deliberate movements. We have a long history of turning simple tools into equalizers. This, for instance, is just a rope, but in the hands of certain human cultures, it becomes a lasso, a whip, a garrote, a tripline. She formed a loop in the cord, twirling it casually. Humans hunted prey larger and more dangerous than themselves for thousands of years. Not with claws or teeth, but with persistence, cooperation, and invention. Hunter Vexi was watching the loop with evident wariness. You challenge my dominance demonstration? Not at all, Vera smiled. I'm merely providing context for your classification board. Humans aren't predators in the conventional sense. We're something you may not have a category for. She stepped forward, and to the astonishment of the arena, Hunter Vexi stepped back. For instance, Vera continued, the bite you just demonstrated, while you were focused on your dominance display, I was observing your physiology. The junction between your neck and shoulder shows a concentration of those beautiful iridescent scales. They pulse with your heartbeat, suggesting a major vascular structure beneath. Your periodic throat expansion indicates air sacs similar to earthbirds, efficient for oxygen processing but vulnerable to compression. The whispers in the arena grew louder. Hunter Vexi's posture had changed, becoming more defensive. Your left primary manipulator, your dominant hand, shows characteristic musculature of a striking predator, but the nerve bundle controlling it is visible here. Vera pointed to a spot just below Vexi's elbow equivalent, where your scales transition from blue to green. A precise strike there would temporarily paralyze your most dangerous natural weapon. The security drones moved closer, but a gesture from someone in the upper tier held them back. The observers were too fascinated by this unexpected turn. Hunter Vexy's voice dropped to a hiss.
You analyze me as if I were prey.
No, Vera corrected. I analyze you as another predator would, assessing strengths, weaknesses, vulnerabilities. It's what humans do. We study. We learn. We adapt. In a move too quick for most observers to follow, Vera flicked the cord loop upward, not toward Vexy but to the side, demonstrating its potential rather than actually threatening the hunter. The precision of the movement was not lost on the audience. Humans have a saying, knowledge is power. We survived on a planet of apex predators, not by being the strongest or fastest, but by understanding our enemies and environment better than they understood us. Hunter Vexy's crest slowly lowered, and to the astonishment of the arena, the predator inclined its head slightly. Fascinating, it said, with what sounded like genuine interest. Your species bears further study. A commotion erupted in the upper tiers. Several official-looking beings were conferring urgently, gesturing toward the platform. The announcement system activated. Attention! Classification proceedings suspended. Security protocol reclassification alpha initiated. Human specimen and Hunter Vexy will withdraw for consultation with Xenobiological Assessment Team. The platform began to descend. As it lowered, Vera caught sight of the other prey species watching from the holding area. Their expressions, those she could interpret, showed a mixture of shock, confusion, and something that might have been hope. The next hours passed in a blur of examinations, interviews, and increasingly high-level consultations. Vera was moved from the medical facility to a conference room, then to what appeared to be an executive suite. Each location was more comfortable and less prison-like than the last. By station evening, she found herself seated at an actual table, with real food, or at least more appetizing nutrition than the prey rations, awaiting the arrival of Administrator Zexy. When the administrator finally appeared, Vera was surprised. She had expected another imposing predator, but Zexy was a small, almost delicate being with luminous eyes and six-fingered hands that moved in constant, graceful patterns. Assistant Liaison Officer Vera Kessler. Zexy's voice was soft, but carried authority. I must apologize for your initial reception at Omega Station 7. Had we known the true nature of your species, different protocols would have been implemented.
And what have you determined the true nature of my species to be?
Vera asked, watching the administrator carefully. Zexy's hands formed a complex pattern. Our xenobiologists have been in consultation with the Galactic Council's records and with Hunter Vexy's direct observations. We have tentatively classified humans as apex cooperative predators. I'm not familiar with that classification. It is rarely used, Zexy admitted. The last species to receive such designation was over 3,000 cycles ago. They have since ascended to Galactic Council founding member status. Vera tried not to show her surprise. Earth had been working for decades to achieve even observer status on the Council. The classification recognizes species that lack conventional predator characteristics, but demonstrate apex predator behaviors, particularly through cooperative strategies, tool use, and analytical hunting methodologies. Zexy's eyes blinked in a sequential pattern. Your analysis of Hunter Vexy's physiological vulnerabilities was particularly compelling evidence. I wasn't trying to threaten the hunter, Vera clarified, merely to demonstrate that humans understand predator-prey dynamics from both perspectives. Precisely. Zexy's hands formed what Vera interpreted as an affirmative gesture. True predators recognize other predators, even unconventional ones. Hunter Vexy has formally acknowledged human predator status, which carries significant weight in hegemony classification proceedings. So what happens now? Vera asked. Your status has been upgraded from Assistant Liaison Officer to full Diplomatic Envoy, Zexy said. You will be relocated to the Diplomatic Wing, with appropriate accommodations and privileges. The Predator-class species of Omega Station 7 have requested formal introduction protocols at your convenience. Vera couldn't help a small smile. They want to meet the weird predator without teeth. Zexi's hands made a motion that might have been the equivalent of a chuckle. Indeed, your species has created quite the sensation. The Krillian second-class delegation has already submitted 17 formal inquiries about Earth's cooperative hunting methodologies.
And the other prey species?
Vera asked. The ones still undergoing classification? Zexi's hands stilled briefly. What about them? Will your classification system be re-evaluated in light of what you've learned about non-conventional predator characteristics? The administrator's luminous eyes narrowed slightly. Our system has functioned effectively for over 12,000 cycles.
And yet it failed to correctly identify my species,
Vera pointed out gently.
Perhaps there are other misclassifications?
Zexi was silent for a long moment. I will take your suggestion under advisement. The classification board may authorize a review of current protocols. It wasn't a promise, but it was a start. Vera knew from diplomatic training that systemic change happened incrementally. She had created a crack in the hegemeny's rigid classification system. Now she could work to widen it. I look forward to working with you, Administrator, Vera said, inclining her head respectfully, and to representing Earth's interests in the hegemony system. As do I, Envoy Kessler, Zexi responded, hands forming a formal greeting pattern. Your species brings unexpected perspectives. 6 months later. Vera stood at the observation window of her diplomatic suite, watching the arrival of Earth's second representative to Omega Station 7. The docking bay below hummed with activity, very different from her own unceremonious arrival. Honor guards from 3 predator species lined the reception area. Administrator Zexi waited personally at the airlock, hands forming patterns of formal welcome, and, most significantly, representatives from 7 formerly prey-classified species stood as part of the official welcoming committee. Their newly recognized status as cooperative specialized species, granting them diplomatic standing. Quite a difference from your arrival, isn't it? The voice belonged to Hunter Vexi, who had become, improbably, one of Vera's closest allies on the station. The power of a good first impression, Vera agreed with a smile, touching her shoulder where a small scar remained from their first encounter. The power of forcing us to reconsider our assumptions, Vexi corrected, crest rippling in what Vera now recognized as amusement. The hegemony do not adapt quickly, but when we do, the change is thorough. Below, the airlock cycled open. Earth's new representative, Ambassador Choi, stepped onto Omega Station 7, receiving a welcome befitting a recognized diplomatic power, rather than an unclassified specimen. Your colleague will find a very different station than the one you experienced, Vexi observed. Thanks to a bite and a length of cord, Vera said. Thanks to a human who understood that sometimes, to change a system, you must first allow it to reveal its flaws, Vexi countered. Had you submitted as expected, your species would be classified as mid-tier prey at best. Vera watched as Ambassador Choi was escorted toward the diplomatic wing, followed by representatives of species that, 6 months ago, would never have been allowed in these corridors. Sometimes, she said quietly, the most effective resistance isn't fighting back immediately, but letting your opponent show their hand first. Vexi's crest rose in acknowledgement. A very predator way of thinking. Envoy Kessler. Perhaps humans and Zephrins are not so different after all. Perhaps, Vera agreed. Predator and prey aren't such fixed categories as your people once thought. Indeed, Vexi gestured toward the diplomatic procession below. And perhaps that is the most valuable lesson your species has brought to Omega Station 7. As they watched, Administrator Zexi led the procession toward the newly established Cooperative Species Council chamber, a forum that would have been unthinkable under the old classification system. A small change in a system 12,000 years old, but a significant one. Vera touched the scar on her shoulder again, a reminder of the moment she chose not to submit, not to fight, but to observe and understand. The most human response of all. Sometimes, to change the rules of the game, you had to let your opponent make the first move. And sometimes, when a predator bites you, the most powerful response is to show them exactly why that was a mistake.